Hi, I just want to go over a close reading of The Rattler with you. So you should have already read this on its own. And I'll just go through and show you as how I've annotated the piece. So first of all, one of the things I noticed was the chronological organization. So it flows in terms of the sequence of events. So for your summative for this unit, you're going to have to choose to do a close reading, and you're going to look at um, what the writer uses in order to create meaning. So how does the author use different techniques, so diction, syntax, point of view, and organization, as it says here, in order to create meaning? So what is the effect of these techniques? So when I look at this, I look at after sunset, I walked out into the desert. So he's alone, clearly, walking into the desert. So it makes the man almost seem vulnerable, which is important as we move forward. Light was thinning, the scrub's dry, savory odors were sweet on the cooler air. In this, the first pleasant moment for a walk after long blazing hours, I thought I was the only thing abroad. Abruptly, I stopped short. So we notice that the sentences are longer before, but now in terms of syntax, we see a very short sentence at the end. Abruptly, I stopped short. And then prior to that, the idea is I was the only thing. Thing is an interesting choice of words. We move to the next paragraph. The other lay rigid, as suddenly arrested, his body undulant. The head was not brought back to strike, but was merely turned a little to watch what I would do. Interesting word choice of the other. So seeing, the snake as an other. So someone different from him. It was a rattlesnake and knew it. Interesting use of the dash there. I mean that was a 6-foot black snake, thick as my wrist, capable of long-range attack and armed with powerful fangs, will flee at the sight of a man. The rattler felt no necessity of getting out of anybody's path. He held his ground in calm watchfulness. He was not even rattling yet. Much less was he coiled. He was waiting for me to show my intentions. So I've tried to look at different ways that the rattler reacted. So he held his ground, not even rattling yet. He was waiting, calm watchfulness. It shows that the rattler is not looking for any kind of trouble. He's kind of sitting back and watching what's about to happen. My first instinct was to let him go his way and I would go mine. And with this, he would have been well content. I have never killed an animal I was not obliged to kill. The sport in taking life is a satisfaction I can't feel. But I reflected that there were children, dogs, horses at the ranch, as well as men and women, lightly shod. My duty, plainly, was to kill the snake. I went back to the ranch house, got a hoe, and returned. So it's interesting, his first choice is he would like to let the snake go. He has no desire to really to kill the snake, but he looks at it as a duty. And he also talks about never killing an animal he wasn't obliged to kill. The rattler had not moved. He lay there like a live wire. It's an interesting simile as a live wire. We think of if a storm has happened and there are, hydro wires on the road that are live, the danger is significant. But he saw the hoe. Now indeed his tail twitched. The little Toscan sounded. He drew back his head and I raised my weapon. Quicker than I could strike, he shot into a dense bush and set up his rattling. He shook and shook his fair but furious signal, quite sportingly, warning me that I had made an unprovoked attack, attempted to take his life, and that if I persisted, he would have no choice but to take mine if he could. I listened for a minute to his little song of death. It was not ugly, though it was ominous. I said that life was dear and would be dearly sold. And I reached into the paper bag bush with my hoe and hacking about, soon dragged him out of it with his back broken. Interesting how he sees the snake somewhat as an equal. Also interesting the snake's response, quite sportingly warning me, unprovoked attack. It was not ugly, though it was ominous. He's really looking at how the snake is reacting. It said that life was dear and should not be dearly sold. The snake clearly is not acting out against the man, but he's reacting to the man's behavior, and he clearly does not want to fight. He struck passionately once more at the hoe, but a moment later his neck was broken and he was soon dead. Technically, that is, he was still twitching, and when I picked him up by the tail, some consequent jar, some mechanical reflex, made his jaws gape and snap once more, proving that a dead snake may still bite. There was blood in his mouth and poison dripping from his fangs. It was all a nasty sight, pitiful now that it was done. I did not cut the rattles off for trophy. I let him drop into the close green guardianship of the paper bag bush. Then, for a moment, I could see him as I might have let him go, sinuous and self-respecting, in departure over the twilight sands. So when I read this, I think about the feelings that the author had about the man killing the snake and the feelings that I have as a reader. There's definitely sympathy created for the reader. And then if we consider how the author creates this effect, that would be one way to look at how the writer creates meaning. So by looking at how the snake reacts, we can certainly feel empathy or sympathy for the snake. When I think about the tone, there's certainly tones of obligation and remorse. The man does not want to kill the snake, and yet he feels a sense of obligation and also a sense of equality. He feels like the snake is an equal, not that it's something to be treated, dispassionately. And then I think also the diction demonstrates that the Rattler is a brave and dignified opponent, really demonstrating the power of the snake. And I really believe that leads to us feeling sympathy for the snake. This dignified opponent doesn't deserve the hacking about that he speaks of. So these are some thoughts that I had while reading this piece. As you move forward in towards your culminating and even the poetry in the next assignment, look closely. Look for the effects that the style of writing, the devices used, what effects do they have on you as a reader? And then how does the writer create meaning through these techniques? So that's what you'll be focusing on for the rest of the unit. So I just wanted to show you a close reading and annotation of sorts, and then consideration of tone, character, mood, theme. Those are all ways you can look at a selected reading. So moving on to the next unit now.